Good morning. I will pick up on a few things that my colleague, Mike Green, has not yet touched on, and then Victor Chow will be talking primarily about North Korea. I will leave that to him. The Obama administration came in wanting to have a closer partnership, more cooperation with China, particularly on global issues. So there was a desire to really elevate this relationship and find new areas of cooperation, expand what had been done in previous administrations. The agenda was particularly focused on climate change and countering proliferation and cooperating in the effort of global economic rebalancing. There were, I think, early disappointments in this administration, and the Chinese have not stepped up in the way that the Obama administration had hoped. This summit does, to some extent, provide an opportunity to reinvigorate that agenda. We've seen a little bit of progress on climate change and the proliferation front. The administration believes that particularly on Iran, that's an area that is on the positive side of the ledger of the relationship. And North Korea has been a very mixed bag, but again, I'll leave that to Victor. So I think the administration is looking for some tough statements on China. On Iran in particular, the Chinese did support the beefing up the sanctions last year, though probably not as much as the U.S. and others have wanted. But most importantly, they have so far not backfilled companies that are divesting in Iran. And there will be an important meeting coming up in Ankara. I think it's January 21, 22, if I'm not mistaken. And the administration is very keen to ensure that there is good P5+1 unity. So we want China to stay on board with keeping pressure on Iran. That, again, is probably the single most, among the security issues, the area in which there is most cooperation. I would also mention briefly on human rights that I think that President Obama is going to want to say something fairly firm on this issue as well, particularly in the aftermath of the award to Chinese dissident Liu Xiaobo and the Chinese reaction to that, in which the Chinese essentially discouraged countries from attending the award ceremony, but even beyond that, suggested that there was some U.S. interference in the award of the decision that was made. The Chinese are looking mostly for symbols, optics, face in the Chinese context. The protocol is very, very important to the Chinese. They did not get a state visit for Hu Jintao in 2006. They got sort of a mixed visit. It was official. He got the White House lawn ceremony, but he did not get the state dinner. Instead, he had a lunch. This time, China is getting, I think, everything that it wants in terms of the symbols of a visit. I think for the Chinese, the most important thing is to avoid the snafus that took place in 2006, where there was a proponent of Falun Gong, the sect, on the White House lawn, unfurling a banner. There was the announcement of the national anthem incorrectly saying that it was the Republic of China's national anthem. So, the Chinese want to avoid all of this. But if there's anything substantive that the Chinese want to accomplish here in the U.S., I think it is improving China's image in the United States. The attitude of the U.S. public toward China. That will be on the agenda when Hu Jintao is in Chicago, for example, visiting a Chinese, an auto parts factory in which there is Chinese investment, sending the message that China is contributing to creating jobs in the United States, visiting I think it's a middle school or a high school in which they teach Chinese, demonstrating, again, cooperation between the U.S. and China on the educational front. But President Hu Jintao wants to show that he has been a good steward, a responsible steward of the U.S.-China relationship. Again, as Mike said, this is his last visit. He's going to want to turn over this relationship, the most critical relationship for China, to his successor, Xi Jinping, in good shape. Let me finally just say something about the military side of things. I agree that Defense Secretary Gates achieved some useful things during his visit to China last week, particularly the agreement by the Chinese to send the head of the 2nd Artillery, which is in charge of these strategic rocket forces, both conventional and nuclear, to our strategic command. The Chinese have in the past suggested that they would do that, and the Bush administration didn't happen. We will see whether it happens this time. I think that President Obama might seek to reinforce some of the things and messages that Defense Secretary Gates was trying to get across. One is that we want to have a sustained and reliable military relationship with China that will survive the shifting political winds, as Secretary Gates said. But I do agree with Mike that if we do go ahead with a major arms sale to Taiwan, that probably all bets are off. I don't think that necessarily the Chinese would suspend the relationship for all arms sales, but we could talk about that in the Q&A. And then finally, Secretary Gates tried to tee up an agreement on a new security dialogue, which would be a joint civilian-military dialogue that would focus on nuclear, space, cyber, and missile defense issues. The Chinese side said that they would study this, though Secretary Gates met with Hu Jintao and said in a discussion with the media afterwards for the press that he believes that Hu Jintao and the Chinese side are really seriously considering this. So this is something that maybe the president will seek to reinforce, that this kind of dialogue would be important toward beginning to allay some of the mutual suspicions that have built up over the last few years and begin to establish a modicum of strategic trust in the relationship. Thank you.